today's workshop. I'm Julie Linger, I'm an attorney for the Department of Procurement Services, and I'm here with Ray Bentley from the Workforce Partnership and Juan Cruz with the city's Department of Family and Support Services. So today we're going to talk about workforce development incentives and programs. The City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services has a number of incentives and programs. Not all of them have to do with workforce development, but I'm just going to focus just on the ones that touch this topic. We do have a separate workshop that covers all of the rest of our incentives and programs, so if you're interested in them, we strongly encourage you to attend. Well, this says some of what I was just saying. So we have a number of initiatives in place to significantly increase the number of opportunities for skilled residents in growing industries in the city. This ensures that disadvantaged populations and youth have access to employment opportunities. It's a high priority for the city. So this workshop, we're not only going to cover the incentives that I mentioned that have to do with workforce development, we're also going to talk about the Chicago Residency Ordinance and Project Area Residency Ordinance requirements, and then I will turn it over to Juan and Ray to speak more about their topics. So diving into the programs and incentives, I'm going to start off with talking about our residency requirements. So the City of Chicago determined that it's really important that if we're spending city funds, which ultimately is coming from city taxpayers, we want to ensure that our city residents are benefiting from our projects. So City Council passed a residency ordinance 292-330 of our municipal code, which requires for all city-funded construction contracts valued at over $100,000, at least 50% of the labor hours have to be performed by Chicago residents. In addition to that, at least 7.5% of the total labor hours have to be performed by project area residents. And what I mean by project area is the actual area where the construction is being performed. So in the solicitation documents or the bid package, we'll actually have either a physical map showing you the boundaries of what that project area are, or we'll have a description saying that this is the project area within these street limits or zone limits, and you need to hire 7.5%, or excuse me, your contractors or their subcontractors need to hire individuals residing in those, so that 7.5% of the labor hours come from residents living in that project area. One thing to keep in mind with these two requirements is that if there's a city resident who also happens to be a project area resident, that counts towards the 7.5 and your 50, so you don't have to double up to 57.5. And these are minimum requirements. We always encourage hiring city residents, so it's not, you don't have to stop hiring people at 50% total labor hours. We would love to see as much participation as possible by city residents. Contractors have to submit residency records and certified payrolls throughout the course of the contract so that we can actually verify that you're complying with this requirement. And there are penalties if you don't comply with it. According to the ordinance, if you fail to meet these requirements, you actually are subject to liquidated damages, and we're not allowed to reduce those. So it's really important that you're aware of these requirements if you're in the construction industry and you're bidding on city-funded work. So now I'm going to shift gears and talk about some of our incentives. So when I say incentive, I mean that these are opportunities for bidders who are eligible to artificially have their bid price reduced purely for evaluation purposes. So if you're eligible for an incentive, we'll reduce your bid by whatever applicable percentage it is when comparing it to other bids, but if you're awarded the contract, your contract value will be the value of your actual bid before the incentives are applied. When we say incentives, what we're trying to do is encourage contractors to perform some sort of behavior or refrain from performing some sort of behavior. So the first one I'm going to talk about is our local business incentive or city-based business incentive. So this is found in 292-412 of our municipal code. It was recently increased. It previously had incentives of 2%, 4%, 6%, and it was recently increased to 4%, 6%, and 8%. So I'll break down each of those three categories. So at the 4% level, if you are a city-based business, meaning your main office is located in the city and the majority of your full-time staff is located in the city of Chicago, you're eligible for a 4% bid incentive. If in addition to that, at least 50% of your employees are city residents, you're eligible for a 6% incentive. And then if you're eligible for the 6%, and a majority of those city residents live in socioeconomically disadvantaged areas of the city, So if you're interested in this bid incentive and you want to apply, there will be an affidavit included in your bid package and you'll need to complete it. Depending on which one you're interested in, you may also have to provide additional information such as proof of addresses of your employees. You might have to provide some payroll documentation to verify that they're actually full-time employees on your payroll. But the bid package will specify what we need from you. So if you're eligible for these and you will submit the appropriate documentation, we will reduce your bid by either 4%, 6%, or 8%. Equal employment opportunity is another incentive, but it's called something a little different in the bid package. So this also applies to construction contracts valued at over $100,000. The city of Chicago recognized that there's demonstrated research and just the history of Chicago shows that minorities and women have not found as much opportunity in construction projects and just projects in general in the city of Chicago. And it's really important for the city to see those numbers increase to provide opportunities for minorities and women for city-funded work. So we have goals for all city-funded construction contracts over $100,000 for a certain percentage of the work to be performed by minority and women journey workers, apprentices, and laborers. So the way this works is when you are completing your bid, you are allowed to propose what commitments you are going to make to hiring female and minority women, journey workers, apprentices, and laborers. We have goals, but they're not requirements. It's up to the contractor to propose what their participation is. So there are caps for the amount of participation you can get for the purposes of calculating the incentive, but there's no caps on what percentage of the work can be performed by women and minorities in these categories. These are just caps for calculating it. So the way it works is there will be an actual formula you have to complete, and in each part of the formula you will commit to whatever percentage of women or minority worker, journey workers, apprentices, and laborers for each of these categories. And then there will be a calculation that you do, and at the end it will give you something called an award criteria figure. And the award criteria figure is what we evaluate bids based on. So if you're also eligible, for example, for the city-based business incentive we talked about just a second ago, we'll take your award criteria figure and then we will reduce it based off the percentage you're eligible for the city-based business incentive. But again, this applies only in the construction industry. One thing to keep in mind is that if you are making commitments with the EEO incentive, they are commitments. And under the ordinance that authorizes this incentive, there are damages associated with not meeting those commitments, because we want to make sure that our contractors aren't just throwing numbers out to try to lower their bid to win a contract. We want to make sure that if our contractors are making these commitments, they're actually hiring minority women in these roles, and that these minority women are actually benefiting from the city work by being employed and getting these opportunities. And the city is suffering damages in the fact that those individuals aren't being hired if the contractor doesn't meet their commitment. Okay, well, before I touch on this one, I just want to touch on one new incentive before I dive into the next one that we don't slide for, but we'll provide a new copy of the presentation that will give you some more information. But we recently, City Council passed a new incentive for diverse workforce and management. So this is one of our highest incentives, and they're incentives that can be combined together. It's designed to encourage our prime contractors to hire minorities and women and to have diverse workforce, not only the workforce level, but also the management level. So workforce, by that we mean full-time employees. So it's anyone full-time. We're not going to count part-time employees for the purposes of this. And for management, we mean all owners, partners, and others who have a fiduciary duty to the business. So this is for any city-funded contract over $100,000. And it's a tiered incentive. And what I mean by that is the incentive that you receive is based off of the total percentage of the prime contractor's management or workforce that is diverse. So if you have 10 to 20% of your management is diverse, you're eligible for a 0.5% bid incentive. If more than 40% of your management is diverse, you can get a 4% incentive. For the workforce side, if you have 10 to 20% of your workforce that's diverse, you're eligible for a 2% incentive. And then if you have greater than 40% of your workforce that's diverse, you can get a 6% incentive. So if you have a diverse workforce and a diverse management, and let's say you have more than 40% in both of those categories, you're eligible for a 10% bid incentive. So it's a very high bid incentive, and that puts you at a very high competitive advantage. So more information is available about this incentive on our website. I apologize we don't have a slide for it right now, but when we send around the revised presentation, you can see some more information about that. Okay, so I wanted to touch on that one before I dove into these next two, because the incentives I talked about before, the way those work is you apply at the time of bid, and we apply the incentives that you're eligible for your bid on that particular project. For these next two I'm going to cover, you apply at the time of bid, and you earn your incentive through your performance, and then you get an earned credit certificate that you can apply to a future contract. So this is something that you don't apply to the actual contract you're bidding on. So there's two incentives, and they're very similar. They both have to do with the utilization of apprentices. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the CPS, or City College's Apprentice Utilization Incentive. So you can earn for this one up to 1% bid incentive that can be applied on future projects. So the way this works is bidders have to employ apprentices that are sponsored into apprenticeship training program that's sponsored by a union. And the apprentice either has to be enrolled in or graduated from a construction technology program at city colleges, or has to be a graduate of CPS high schools. So if they meet those requirements, and at least 5 to 10% of the total labor hours are being performed by those eligible apprentices, the bidder can earn an up to 0.5% incentive that can be applied to a future contract. And then if 11 to 15% of the total labor hours are performed by eligible apprentices, the bidder can earn 1% incentive to be applied to a future contract. So the way we monitor this is that we actually require certified payrolls and proof of enrollment in the apprenticeship program, so we can actually confirm that apprentices are actually being hired and being trained and benefiting from this program. So if at contract closeout we verify that yes, you met these percentage commitments, we will give you what's called an earned credit certificate, which is valid for up to 3 years. You can only use it once, so you can bid multiple times within that period that is valid and try to apply the incentive in future contracts, but you can only win one contract with it. So the second one I'm going to talk about is our ex-offender apprenticeship utilization incentive. Just like the one I just talked about, it's an up to 1% incentive you can earn. This is an opportunity for ex-offenders in our community to be able to find work and help them get back into the workforce. We know that's a barrier sometimes for certain individuals who have experience in the criminal justice system, that they have more difficulty finding work. So hopefully this will incentivize our prime contractors to hire ex-offenders as apprentices. So we work with delegate agencies who receive funding from the Department of Family and Support Services to actually screen and recruit and refer potential candidates. So they'll do the vetting for prime contractors and make sure that the apprentices are actually ready and able and willing to work. And then if prime contractors actually commit to utilizing these apprentices who are in an apprenticeship program sponsored by a union, at the end of their contract, if 5 to 10% of the total labor hours are performed by those apprentices, 0.5%, and then if 11 to 15% are to perform by those apprentices, you can earn an incentive up to 1%. So again, this is a credit that you will earn through your performance during the contract, and we will verify your compliance throughout, and then we will give you an earned credit certificate at the end of the contract, depending on the final percentage of labor hours that were performed by those apprentices. So all of our information about our bid incentives, programs, and the residency requirements is available on DFSS's website. We have rules and regulations for all the incentives. There's also you can find the municipal code. You can look through there and find more specifics about the ordinances that authorize these programs. You can also reach out to me if you have any questions. I have my business card with me today. You can feel free to give me a call. For those of you listening online, my email address is Julie, Julie, .Langrer, LANGREHR @cityofchicago.org. And I know I went through those very quickly, but if you guys have any questions, I'm going to just ask that we wait till the end so the rest of our presenters can dive into other topics. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily.
Good afternoon. Does this mic help?
I think it's for the.
Well, it's for the YouTube.
Okay, great. All right. My name is Ray Bentley. I'm the Chief Community Officer of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. In case you're wondering what that is, that's me. In case you're wondering what the partnership is, we've been in existence since 2012. So we used to be the City of Chicago's Workforce Development Agency and Cook County's Workforce Development Agency, which were government agencies at the time. We were merged together into one agency, and we became a nonprofit. We administer the public workforce system for Chicago and Cook County, and we basically make sure that job seekers and businesses have opportunities to hire people, to meet the human capital needs, and to make sure that job seekers in Chicago have a place to go to support them as they seek employment. Whether it's becoming re-employed after being laid off, or whether it's their first time in employment. So we help people who've been dislocated from their jobs through layoff situations or other types of situations that occur in the workplace, or if they've never been in the workplace. So we help young people. We target young people between the ages of 16 and 24 to help them join the workforce as well. So I kind of gave you a description of who we are. We're actually the second largest workforce system in the nation, and we've helped about 60,000 people find jobs since we've been doing this work in 2012, and we work with over 2,000 employers. We kind of, we have 10 workforce centers located throughout Chicago, Cook County, and I've got some brochures that I'll pass out to you after I finish my presentation, and we'll give you an idea where those locations are. As employers, if you need support, you can actually go into one of those centers. We have a person who's a business services representative who can work with you to help meet your human talent needs. So if you're looking to recruit people, we can help you. We've identified 7 industries that we believe that the city and the county, it's where most of our economy lies. We believe that when we focus on these industries, we can really help people to become employed. What we found out is that when we focus on industries where there's no growth, then the wages tend to not reflect that. Wages tend to reflect lack of growth. The opportunity for upward mobility tends to be weaker. And so we believe that the real key to successful workforce development throughout Chicago and Cook County is to focus on those industries where there's growth. So as you can see when you look at the chart, you see that business and professional services is one of those industries, healthcare, retail, culinary, and hospitality, information technology, manufacturing, transportation, distribution, and logistics, and most recently added is construction. So we believe that when we focus on these areas, that when people get jobs, they'll be living wage jobs with benefits and with upward mobility as well. Our vision is to make sure that every person has an opportunity to build a career. Notice I said career, not a job. We want to help people to build careers. And we also want to make sure that every business has the talent that they need to grow their business and to compete on a global level. Our mission is to look for innovative solutions to address those business needs, and also to help people prepare for, connect them to career opportunities. And they may be more than just a job. So one of the things that we do through workforce development is we actually receive the bulk of our funding from the federal government. It's called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Those funds flow from the federal government through the state to us. And the reason those funds flow to us is to make sure that we have a strong economy that has a strong workforce as well. So part of the provision that we have under that act is to provide people with vocational training resources if they should need it. So if somebody is, say, coming out of high school and they really don't have any vocational skills, and they can't afford to go on to college, they may come to us for vocational training. We will provide support for that kind of training by issuing them a grant, a scholarship that will actually pay for that training. We certify a certain number of trainers who are located throughout Chicago and Cook County to provide that kind of training. You may see a lot of truck driving schools out there. There's a lot of programs that offer medical programs, CNAs, patient care technicians, medical assistants, other levels of radiology technology people. I don't know what that's called exactly. But the people who help in healthcare, who aren't necessarily your nurses or your doctors, who provide assistance, employer development services, and talent acquisition. So in terms of technical assistance, that can take a number of forms. Maybe you need to learn how to apply for tax credits that are available to you, and you may need some help on the technical side. How do you go through that process? It could be an ADAA requirement that you may need help with. How do you meet that requirement? It could mean you need to tap into a resource that can provide some help to you in case you want to hire somebody who may have a disability, and you need to make a reasonable accommodation. We can help you find the resources to do that as well. As a result of being funded by WIOA, we have access to a number of federally funded agencies that provide all kinds of levels of support. That includes working with the Department of Rehabilitative Services under the Illinois Department of Human Services. That includes working with the adult education programs through the community and city colleges. And so we have a lot of different ways that we can support getting individuals into the workplace. I want to give you an example of how we're successfully engaging employers and helping them to meet their needs. It's been a little while, maybe 4 years now, maybe longer, since you probably remember when Dominic's closed a number of grocery stores here in the Chicago area, and a number of people were laid off as a result of that. Well, it just happened to be the case that at the time that Dominic's closed the places, Mariano's was opening places, opening grocery stores. And so we were able to take advantage of that time to help Mariano's staff up their growth, their stores. They were opening stores throughout the Chicagoland area. And because Dominic's is closed now, we were able to actually help a lot of those people who were leaving one place to segue to another. All of them didn't get hired at Mariano's. It's always a matter of employer choice as to who they hire. But it was good news to find out there's a labor pool that's already trained and ready to move into a lot of those jobs. As a result of that, we have 49 different agencies. So we provide our funding to delegate agencies to do most of the groundwork in terms of helping individuals. These are community organizations that would be in your communities. Or again, those one-stop workforce centers I told you about earlier are places where people can get workforce support. So that's how we have our conduits into the community to develop that labor pool and to move those people into employment. So we tap those agencies. We tapped our 10 high-value workforce centers, and we tapped our satellite centers and our specialty centers, and we've moved a pool of 3,500 identified pre-screened individuals through to Mariano's for review and hire, and 1,500 people were placed. So that's a tremendous load off of an employer's plate to know that they can actually depend on us to help them to screen and get people hired. And oftentimes, when they try to do this through web-based approaches, it's not always that successful. So having us on the ground to actually be connected to those communities makes a huge difference. So I'm going to give you an example of how the system works. Again, I mentioned that we serve two customers, the job seekers and the employers. I talked about the training. By having certified training providers throughout Cook County, we actually have a group of organizations already prepared to help people with vocational training, help them develop skills, and help make sure they have credentials so that those credentials are meaningful in the workforce. We have a career coach. To me, this is one of the keys to being successful in this work, is that, every person that comes in front of you presents a different situation about why they're not employed. And so no two people are alike. Some people bring additional barriers to employment, and they need additional supports. And so by having a career coach that can focus on what the needs of this individual are, you can move that person through to employment. And that's what the role of the career coach does. The business services team provides the support to the employer group to make sure they understand the employer's needs. Every employer typically has some specifications around the jobs that they want to fill. Often it's called a job description. And sometimes when they don't have those job descriptions, they need to have one. That's, again, where we can step in and make sure that they outline what it is they need. Because until that key step takes place, it's really hard to fill a position when you don't know what it means, what it requires. So one of the most important things to do is to make sure employers understand what it is they want to fill. They've identified the specific job duties and responsibilities, and that the pay is commensurate with the level of skill that they're expecting to receive. You'd be surprised at how many times job descriptions may be overreaching in terms of what their expectations are versus the pay, and then they may wonder why they can't fill a position for a long period of time. Sometimes when they come to us, these are the things we help them to understand. We help them compare it to the existing job market, to other jobs that are like theirs, so that they can line up their job and be competitive in the workplace. Because if they're not competitive in their approach, then they're going to struggle too. They're going to either not be able to hire, or they're going to suffer turnover. So it helps us to help them to identify specifically what it is they need to price it fairly. And I've got a sheet for you that will help you understand how some of that research that we do makes its way to the employers as well. And then there's us. So we're the cog that kind of holds all this together. And you can see these various wheels turning. We focus on career pathways because we believe that when people identify with a career pathway, then they're committed to more than just a job. They're committed to their career and their upward mobility. So there's a good chance they're going to move through this process because it's beneficial to them, to their families. We make sure that we have a talent pipeline. On average, we keep 7,000 plus people in our pipeline on any given day. So on any given day, we can tap that many people and make them aware of particular opportunities. Everybody in that pipeline is not interested in every opportunity, so that's going to narrow the scope down quite a bit. But the idea is that to have a large number of people who are currently in the job market seeking employment does make a huge difference when you're trying to staff up. We post these positions and opportunities throughout Chicago and Cook County, and we also support the upskilling part of it where there may be a position that is not that easy to fill. We can support that employer in making sure that we upskill folks, and I'll talk more about that as we close out. The career coaches, again, they work with the individuals. They develop an individual employment plan, which helps the person to really be part of the whole process. Because, if somebody just tells you how to go through things, that's not your plan. That's somebody else's plan. So the idea is to engage that person, and they work together to develop an individual plan that moves that person to employment. And then training if necessary for the job search process. We do this through data and analytics. Like I said, we've identified those top areas where the growth is. We've identified at least 40 occupations that we think are growth opportunities in the Chicago, Cook County area. And we use a sector strategy approach, meaning that we've identified some key areas where we think we need to have specialty centers. We call them sector centers in Chicago. We've got 3 sector centers in Chicago, one in information technology, one in healthcare, and one in hospitality and retail. And those centers are specifically designed to help help that business community to meet its employment needs. So I think I've kind of talked about those areas again: information technology, transportation, distribution, logistics. These are all big Chicago names. I mean, just a factoid for you is that in the area of hospitality, we had over 57.6 million people visit Chicago last year. And that was 2.6 million people growth compared to the last year. So a lot of people come to Chicago, and they enjoy our culture, they enjoy our hospitality, our restaurants, our museums. And so it's a real opportunity for us to make sure that communities take part in the benefits that we receive as a result of being a tourism city. We also conduct labor market information. Like I said, I've got a report that I think you're going to like, in which we identify top jobs, top employers, and the skill sets that are required in those particular jobs. Again, we analyze labor market data to come up with that information, those industries. And so I just want to kind of leave you with something that may be worth you looking at in the future. Last time we did this session, we actually had an employer who took advantage of our services. It was a garage company, parking garage company, and currently we're helping them fill positions and also helping them with some training. One of the resources that we have at our availability is what we call on-the-job training subsidies, where we actually help employers who are looking to recruit to, if they don't have the training capacity or the position they're trying to fill, but they're not having any luck because they can't find people who can meet all of the requirements, we can actually work out an agreement with you to support you through an on-the-job training subsidy. We don't pay for the hire. What we pay for is for the training. So if you're willing to take a chance with somebody who may meet 75% requirements, but may be short on 25%, and if we can identify that 25% of development that needs to occur, we can attach a dollar value to that and subsidize you for that. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, so if you're interested, you just have to let me know you'd like to explore this. But I think it's a really good opportunity for you to meet your hiring and training needs through OJT subsidies. We also do this for companies that are looking to start with new employees. We call it customized training. We do that in cohorts. So you may need to staff with 10 people. You may have to staff with 5. It's, individual. The other one, OJT, is for individuals. The customized training takes a cohort and moves them through the process with the idea that when they complete their training, you're going to have a job waiting for them as long as they're successful. And And then we have incumbent worker training, which is for individuals who are currently working in your workplace, but who may need some additional development, either one, to keep your business open, or two, because your requirements are changing, and now you need to upskill your employees just to stay competitive. And so that's another opportunity for you to receive funding for training purposes, where we can help make sure that you stay in business, you stay in Chicago, and that your people stay competitive. So I think that's kind of a wrap for me. I just want to make sure that I give you some of these materials, and I'm going to turn it over to Juan. Whoa.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Cruz, and I am a workforce coordinator with the Department of Family and Support Services. Department of Family and Support Services.
Can you just push it up just a little bit? Slide it up just a little bit. Yeah. Thank you.
Again, my name is Juan Cruz with the Department of Family and Support Services. The Department of Family and Support Services is the city's largest social service provider. Under that, my department is workforce development, and we're going to talk about that a little later in the slides about how we connect workforce services to this incentive for the bids. But again, Department of Family and Support Services is the city's largest social service provider. With that, our mission, again, the city has various city departments. We have first responders, police and fire. We have garbage collection. But I always like to say we're the softer side of the city, and so we work with families and we help them build stability. So again, with our mission is working with community partners. We work with over 3,000 community partners, and so working with those community partners, we connect our residents and families to resources that build stability, support their well-being, and empower them to thrive. So again, under the umbrella of Department of Family and Support Services, we have everything. We have 7 different departments. We have everything from early childhood development, pre-start. We have youth services with our One Summer Chicago Plus programs where we engage youth in the summer program activity. We have domestic violence hotlines. We have workforce services, which I share responsibility for managing those grants. We have our homeless services, we have senior services, and we have 6 community service centers around the Chicagoland area. Again, our budget is over $300 million, and we serve 300,000 individuals. And so how do we serve those 300,000 individuals? So we do that with contracts. So we contract out to community-based organizations that's geographically located throughout the 77 wards, right? Throughout our wards in Chicago and our community. Under the umbrella for workforce services, we got involved and we were really happy to get the nudge to work with the Department of Procurement. And so what we do again, and building a new Chicago, we can't be a city that works if it doesn't work for all of our residents. And so we work with some of the most vulnerable populations that we have. We work with individuals that's traditionally locked out of workforce, or I'll say forgotten workforce, which are ex-offenders or justice involved individuals. We work with individuals that's at risk of being homeless. We work with immigrants that come back to Chicago and have English as a second language, and we work with some of our veterans to find them employment. So again, it's a challenging population. With our ex-offender population, again, it was a forgotten workforce. But the mayor saw the need to identify this issue and then come up with incentives and programs to help individuals work. And again, we're pleased to work with the Department of Procurement and contractors that's willing to give individuals a second chance. Again, working with us, we work with the individuals to do job training and placement, get individuals engaged in workforce. And in some of those disciplines, we have some of our agencies that work with the unions, and so we do have a pipeline of qualified candidates if you're looking for that. So definitely reach out to us at the Department of Family and Support Services. We have 4 community reentry support centers that engage in this work. So we have community reentry support centers that's geographically located throughout the Chicagoland area. So what we saw is just the need to have centers that's located where individuals are returning home from incarceration or state prison, right? So we saw last year over 48,000 individuals returning to Chicago from prison looking for a second chance. And so what we saw is that about half of those exits came back to Chicago. And so in particularly in different communities in Chicago, but mostly on the west and south sides of Chicago. So we do have reentry support centers that's located on the west and south sides. We also see individuals returning on the north side of Chicago. So we have a reentry support center on the north side and then far south, so the Roseland area. Again, through our partner agencies, we work with over 1,000 individuals, and we had about 14,000 calls that come through our system. So again, those systems are manned to really answer questions and referrals to individuals looking for services. A lot of individuals with backgrounds don't know that they have options or choices to be productive, and so we wanted to really just assess their needs and then provide resources that they can have to really let them become on the path to being a productive citizen. And so again, we work with over 48 delegate agencies in my shop for workforce development, and so we have 14 specifically that's identified that they work with that target population. So we have 14 agencies that work with this population. Over 48 delegate agencies. Of course, individuals may have multiple barriers. An individual could be a veteran, have a background, and be homeless. And so that number can, of course, go up. So we are definitely analyzing the data to see exactly what that need is again. And so again, I talked about the reentry support centers, and these are the agencies where they're located. We have Westside Health Authority. This is on our west side of Chicago. We have on the south side of Chicago, Teamwork Inglewood. On the far south side, we have Phalanx Family Services, and up north we have Howard Area Community Center. These are great access points. These are the access points that the contractors will contact if you're looking for qualified individuals to give them a second chance, to definitely take them on as apprentices. Again, we do have case managers that work with individuals, and so we just don't kind of leave them at the employer's doorstep. So we do have ongoing relationships with our clients. And again, we've seen great success with this model, and we encourage you guys, if you want to take advantage of those incentives, to really give us a call and let us help you staff. Yeah, so pretty much, I mean, again, what we do is, I like to say that we're a bridge to what the WIOA system is or what the Chicago Cook Partnership is. So again, we start on the ground level. We work with the residents and families and clients, and so to help them succeed to the next level. So we like to bridge that gap between job preparation and then finding employers that's willing to take a chance. So thank you for your time. That was the end of my slide. And so we got to open it up.
So I'll just let you know, we have a social media presence on Facebook, and I mean the Department of Procurement Services. It's Facebook, Twitter. We record and live stream these presentations, but we also have the recordings on YouTube, so you can go back and watch. Our website has a ton of useful information on there. You can find information about all of our opportunities, RFPs, whatever the case may be. Addenda or changes to those procurements, our workshop schedules, events, all of our rules and regulations, a lot of good information up there, and our website address is on this slide. So if you guys have any questions, we would just ask that you use the microphone so that people who are listening on YouTube can actually hear your question, and then we can answer it for you.
Okay, I have a few questions. In regards to the first incentives that we went through, the certificates that you said that are provided after the job is completed, are those granted and they're valid up until 1 year after they're awarded, or I know you said you can use them multiple times until you're awarded, but I wanted to know when it expires.
So the first couple incentives I talked about, like the city-based business, the equal opportunity, or equal employment opportunity, and diverse workforce and management, those are incentives that you applied for at the time of bid, and you earn it on your actual bid for that particular contract. So it's a one-time shot. You bid on it, and you either get it or you don't get it, and then your bid is reduced for evaluation purposes. For the two apprentice utilization incentives, those two are earned credits. So on your bid, what you do is you complete an affidavit saying, I commit to having, let's say, 15% of the total labor hours performed by ex-offender apprentices. So you'll make that commitment. And then at the end of the contract closeout, you have to submit proof showing that you actually met your commitment. And at that time, we'll give you the earned credit. It's a certificate that you can then use for up to 3 years. So you can apply it to as many bids as you want during that period, but you can only win one bid. So if you're bidding on, like, let's say you have like 3 bids that are due at the same time, what we generally will do is the bid that is open first is the one that we'll apply it to. But ultimately, you can use it as much as you want in that 3-year window, but you're only going to be able to win once. You can apply to have it. So if you've earned a certificate for your work on a past contract, you can apply it to your bid, and you can make a commitment to use those apprentices again, so you could potentially use the incentive that you've already earned and earn another incentive. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. This also touches on the first few incentives. The new one, I know you said that you would follow up with more information later on. What were the higher management requirements that you said? Specifically, what does that fall under?
Do you mean like who inflow title?
Yeah.
Oh. So generally for the diverse workforce and management, the management portion of it, the maximum incentive you can get is 4%. And to do that, you have to have greater than 40% of your management is diverse. So we include all owners, partners. So if you're an LLC, it'd be your members. If you're a partnership, it'd be all your partners. If you're a joint venture, it'd be all your owners and members and joint venture. And then we say anyone who has a fiduciary duty to the business. So that's going to vary from business to business depending on the roles and responsibilities of the individuals. So you would just have to provide us with documentation demonstrating that this is someone who is a manager who has a fiduciary duty. So generally you think of who's in a managerial position, who's supervising and managing work or individuals within your organization.
I have one last one. Okay, this is kind of like a 2-part question. As a GC, can we use subcontractors, workforce employees as people who can meet the incentive, or does it have to be our workforce?
So for the diverse workforce and management incentive, it has to be your own workforce. So for different incentives, there's different requirements. It just depends on the specific one. But for that particular incentive, it has to be your own workforce and your own management.
I mean, for the Chicago residents.
Oh, for the residency requirement?
Yeah.
So that one you actually can meet through subcontractor performance. So when we look at the total labor hours, we're looking at the total labor hours of the entire job performed by everyone on your team. And your team is the prime and all of your subs and all of their subs. So it can be met at any level. When we discourage contractors from just finding one company and just trying to get them to meet all of the requirements, we want to spread out the opportunities in different trades and different work areas, but it is possible to achieve through your subs.
Okay, so my last question, I'm not sure if this would only apply to CDOT. I know your sister companies like PVC and all of them. So my question here is, I've seen this on a contract in the past. One of the requirements was to hire a certain percentage of subcontracting companies that are from a disadvantaged community. Is there somebody here or who can like show us. We were trying to look for them, but it was kind of hard to find certain companies that fall under that, what MAP or whatever contract it may be.
Were you had to hire DBE companies or MBE?
Yeah, I believe it was DBEs or MBEs that were like located in a certain part of Chicago.
I'm not familiar with requirements where you have to hire MBE, WBE, or DBE firms that are in specific areas of the city. We do have an incentive where you can earn, I think it might be an up to 2% incentive for using subcontractors that are located in the project area, but it's an incentive, it's not a requirement. We have information about that incentive on our website. With respect to MBE, WBE, and DBE requirements, for MBE, WBE, the only location requirement is in order to be a certified firm as an MBE or WBE, you have to be local, meaning within the 6-county region. So it's Chicago, Cook, Will, Lake. Always blank on the last two, but the information's on our website. But generally, you have to work local. You have to be local. But as long as a firm is certified as an MBE, a WBE, or if it's a federally funded contract, a DBE, and they're actually certified in the area you want them to perform, and they're actually performing the work, then that's sufficient. So if there was something that required you to hire firms within a certain area, I'd have to see the actual specification and the requirements to find out why we had that requirement. Is there any other questions?
Okay, I have one more. For the ex-offender, so for example, we already do it with the tollway, and I know there goes by payroll, so it just continues to go on. So from my understanding, your ex-offender, it would be at the end of the contract, correct?
Yes, so it's at the end of the contract. We would want you to submit all of your payroll documentation to show that whatever percentage you committed to, you met or exceeded that, and we would grant you your credit based on the documentation of the contract closed out. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have just stupid question maybe. I really wonder how to locate those socio-economically disadvantaged area of the city. Where can I find those information?
Exactly, turn the microphone.
No,
So in every bid specification, there will be a map that will actually show you. So there'll be highlighted areas on the map that we'll call out. So, and we work with Department of Planning and Development to actually determine what those areas are. So it's updated from time to time. I believe it's also on the Department of Planning and Development's website. But the bid package, if those requirements apply, or if you're bidding for an incentive that you need to hire individuals within that zone to be eligible, we'll provide you with information of where those areas are located.
Yeah, I have another question. You said the apprentices must be sponsored to the training program, either enrolled in or graduated from the construction technology training program. How can I find those information? Like, how can I make sure I know where to find those programs and verify those programs?
So the apprentices have to be sponsored into a union apprenticeship program. Chicago Workforce Partnership and DFSS can probably help refer you to candidates who are eligible, who are either already sponsored into those programs or eligible to be sponsored into those programs. And they work with delegate agencies who also screen and recruit individuals who are eligible for those.
Can I see Mike for a second? I would like to respond.
Oh, sorry.
So the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership just started a program thanks to the Illinois Tollway, called Construction Works, and we are identifying people at pre-apprenticeship levels, apprenticeship levels, and journeyman levels to work on contracts for the tollway, but also for construction at large, because we realize it's a growth area. So if you want additional information, just give me your cards. I can get your contact.
Okay, yeah, I will. Yeah. And also,
Giving your last one.
and also actually, we try to promote ourselves to attend those trainings and programs. We believe that could be helpful for them. Then how can we help them to obtain those information and say, can I just give you a call and get where they can apply those programs, something like that?
If you give me your business card.
Yeah, for sure. I will.
Construction.
Yeah. Yeah, and also thinking about the workforce, do they have to be full-time employee or they can be like part-time employee?
For the incentives, we look at full-time participation.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that they're actually receiving real work and really benefiting from.
Okay, understood. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for attending.
Thank you so much for coming today, and we look forward to seeing you at another workshop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cutting from the microphone. Answer.
Generally, you don't, but this one ran out of battery.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. I'm from Jobbers.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we work with toy a lot. Do a lot of work with that. We do mostly electrical, but we've been trying to get into the structures too, like the maintenance buildings. So it would be nice, like for example, I just thank you. I'm trying to do something like municipal, it's not Southington County, but our local union $9 didn't really work for that specific one. It should probably more people to say that we have a price, like laborers, operators.
I'll definitely reach out.
Okay, yeah, any connections, and then I can get them to the sub